Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be reading non-fiction graphic novels for an entire week. I just wanted to challenge myself, read a new genre, and see how much I can learn from graphic novels throughout the course of this week. Enjoy! So the first book is The Black Panther Party, and in this book, it talks about how the Black Panther Party started to empower the Black community and grant them self-defense in defense of police brutality, but it also had a lot of negative impacts in the Black Panther Party as well. It's so interesting in this book. It explains what the role of cartoons were, or this is cartoons, but they mean comics, because in the early days of the Black Panther papers, I think that's what they're called, they had comics in them, and that helped spread their word and their ideology in the news. And on the other hand, the FBI used comics to stoke animosity between different Panther organizations, to tear them apart. So it's interesting how comics are like a part of their history too. When you think of the civil rights movement, you think of Black people. Oh. Here we have this page where we have the Brown Berets, the White Panthers, the Young Lords, who are a Puerto Rican group in Chicago, and the American Indian movement. So the 60s had a bunch of different social justice groups. And also there were Panther movements outside of the US. There are the British Black Panthers, the Dalit Panthers in India, and the Polynesian Panthers. And there were also the Australian Black Panthers made up of Aboriginal Australians. Did not know that. Okay guys, I just finished The Black Panther Party. Really liked it overall. I'm gonna save my final reviews of all the books to the end. This, I proceed to give a review. This gave a great overview of the Black Power movement in especially the 60s, so great overview. So instead of picking up a bunch of individualized biographies, this just covered a lot of people. And then I started Your Black Friend, which this author, he participated in a lot of protests in the 2010s and the 2020s. And he mentions the summer riots, the Black Panthers, Angela Davis. So I did a great job of creating the reading order. So this is really good to read after the Black Panther Party. So far, this book is like an acid trip. So it's so crazy, but I really like him writing about his activism. So I really like that part of it. So I'm so tired. So I'm gonna finish this tomorrow. I'm halfway through. Hey guys, good morning. It's the next day. I'm planning to finish this today. Who knows if I will. But I forgot to say last night in the beginning of this book, since I'm halfway through, he talks about how he's half Black, half white. His mom is white, and she voted for Trump, and that kind of cemented the end of their relationship. And it's nice to read because I'm also Black, and I have had family members of mine vote for Trump, and it's you know, you can see the same like betrayal kind of as a Black person and having like people in your family vote for someone who is not supporting their best interests. So yeah, I really appreciate this. Yeah, it's just very relatable. And I said this book is an acid trip. Like, he has like, it's like mostly political. I don't know what to call them. Short stories. I'm sure there's like a term for it. Like, it's a bunch of little stories in here. And sometimes we just have like aliens and roaches and like sometimes sometimes it's just other strangers like at the bottom of the cover that are just random creatures and we're just on a different planet and it's like what's going on. So yeah, I'm like completely confused when we have those outlandish chapters. I guess I'll call them chapters, but I like the more like realist chapters. But yeah, I'm liking it. This is a very strange book, but very relatable. Wow. I'm only at chapter 2. I've only read chapter 1. But this book is so good so far. It's about a historian researching women-led slave revolts. And she said, after reading every scrap of every story about slave revolts, I came across ones that included women, but only if I read between the lines. This reminds me of, I took a college class called Black German History. And this has nothing to do with Black German history, but I mean, that involves Black people. But in that class, there was no Black German history. So that class was about studying a lack of history. So this is another instance of where you're reading between the lines and studying where there isn't history, which is really cool. But yeah, any of you out there that are interested in history, more focus on not what the history is, because that has been whitewashed a lot of the time. And, you know, victors have changed history to make themselves look in a good light. But look where there's an absence of history. That's where the really important things are. So that's what's really cool about this. So in this book, it shows that there's history everywhere you look in a modern context. So we have a modern revolving door, and we have a slave house behind it. And slaves lighting torches, presumably for a revolt. And then on the next page, we have a slave revolt in a hardware store, a salon, and we have nooses that are in the window of the police car window. So it's showing that, you know, history has happened here in America, and it's all around us, even in the modern day. So this is really amazing how the artist created this. And the artist is Hugo Martinez. Guys, this book is so good. This is one way history erases us. What we had to say was not even considered important enough to record. So she's talking about not being able to find Black women, records of Black women involved in slave revolt. You think you are reading an accurate chronicle written at the time, but if who we are and what we care about are deemed irrelevant, it won't be in there. Like, this is just why I don't like history. History just excludes women of color, those who are considered irrelevant. And I just always had a problem with how events in history are considered irrelevant and just not taught in schools, and people are left out. So I just haven't liked history, especially in like middle school and high school, because I just could not stand how whitewashed it was. So like this book is really, I just really like critiques of history and like Western history. This book really makes you think, like, the author could have thought to herself, is this book even worth being published? Because there's so many gaps in the story. How do I put this all into a book and publish it when I'm acknowledging there's so much I don't know? So for example, in this particular slave revolt in the 1700s, we don't know who kind of took the fall for the revolt, who exactly was executed, who was jailed and for how long. And so this book is asking all those questions and showing the process of how this book was made. And it makes you think like history is constructed to not have books like these, where if you don't have all the facts to a story, history just wants you to not tell that story at all. So it's just making me think about how, like, I'll call these like incomplete histories, how they just fall by the wayside because information is purposely not kept about Black people in particular. So it's making me think a lot. So this is all to say the most important history is the spotty history, the incomplete history. Because if you don't study that, then it's completely gone. So it's really important for people to publish books about these incomplete histories. I don't know why it's taking me so long to put two and two together, but like the Black Panthers are a small, less focused reiteration of organized violence against white oppressors that is discussed in the Slave Revolt book. And just think, like, your humanity is denied. You're forced to serve these white families. You're not treated as a human, and the only way to resist is with this violence and brutality. So this is more of an intense version of organizations like the Black Panthers. So it's very different because Black Panthers were focused on self-defense, and this is something different. Whereas the Black Panthers were motivated, I don't know what good word to use, by police brutality. These slave revolts are caused by these slaves having their humanity stripped away from them. So it's really crazy to think about. Like, imagine what you do. You're trapped like in a house. You're not treated as a human. It's like, what else can you do? So after one of the slave revolts, in a household where there's a male slave and a female slave, they killed their masters and their children. And the woman was burned at the stake because when women kill their masters or their husband, they're considered her natural lord. And it says killing him was like killing the monarch. It was a crime against the state. So she was burned. And then the male was hanged. So it's two different forms of punishment for men and women. Well, we knew witches were like burned at the stake. So if you wonder like why women were burned, could be one of the reasons back then. I had to correct my statement. In this book, it said the Salem witches, they were actually hanged. They weren't burned at the stake. So that is a popular misconception. I cannot put this book down. I'm just thinking about how grateful I am to be freed, not be forced to be someone's servant. I can pick any career I want. I have the ability to read, which slaves did not. So, just thinking a lot about my life today. So, unfortunately, there's no page numbers, but there's chapter numbers. So, chapter 6 says, "It is part of living in the wake of slavery. We must defend the dead and fight the violence inflicted on them by their erasure from the record." This is a really good quote from this book. So I gotta put it in my reading journal. So in the United States, we think of the remnants of slavery like plantations in the South that are still running. But I was gonna say the main character author, she travels to London and goes to like the headquarters of an insurance company called Lloyd's of London. And they got their start from insuring slave ships. And they're still doing insurance today. And reading about this book isn't too harrowing if you're really psychologically sensitive like me. But it's just so sad to read about slave revolts because your only options are, we have a 1% chance of getting free. Less than 1% chance of getting free. Your options are to be a slave or to die. And it's just like really tough choice. Either way. So good. Buy this book. Hey guys. So I'm reading Gender. I have a lot of thoughts. So let's start with what I don't like about this. Obviously, I'm liking it. I've tabbed a lot of it. Some of it I'm gonna write in my reading journal. Sometimes when I'm reading nonfiction, I just write a bunch of kind of facts that I learned. And then some of the pink tabs I wanted to discuss with you guys, but it's a lot. So this book, it started out, focuses on how economies shape gender. And it starts off with labor roles in society that women had compared to what men had. And it talks about how in the capitalist system, the work of white men, for example, is valued highest, and then women the lowest, especially women of color. This book is super intersectional, and it talks a lot about capitalism, and it combines male hegemony with, there's a page. It says it. And you can't talk about patriarchy without discussing capitalism, colonialism, white supremacy. And you can't ever tease gender apart from class, race, sexuality, or disability. So every page so the majority of this book goes into a deep dive on race, sexuality, disability, class. So it's a lot more of a sort of focus on economic systems than I was expecting. And what I really appreciate is that this book stresses that capitalism thrives off of the gender binary and making women feel like they're not women enough and men feel like they're not man enough and they need to keep investing. All girls know it's very expensive to be a girl. You have to pay for pay for hair, makeup, nails, like shaving, and like it's extremely expensive. And so I really like how the book discusses that and how gender is performed. And also, what was really interesting was that this says on the section, our gendered experience shapes our bodies. Testosterone is often found in higher levels in men than women and is seen as the reason for them being more ambitious, competitive, and aggressive. However, studies by scientists like Sari Van Anders have found testosterone levels increase when people of any gender behave in dominating ways and their status goes up, and decrease when people behave in nurturing ways and their status goes down. So what roles we take or what actions we take, that determines our hormone levels. And then on the next page, Throw Like a Girl. In her classic essay, Throwing Like a Girl, a political theorist, Iris Marion Young, points out how differently boys and girls are socialized in relation to their bodies. She points out that women don't see themselves as capable, become used to thinking I can't rather than I can, and approach tasks that way. So the book says tasks that women are expected to not be good at, women are not good at, generally. And tasks that women are expected to be good at, they're good at. So it's really problematic when everyone is saying, I'm just a girl, I'm just a girl. It's just enforcing that women are incapable. And people need to stop saying that. Please stop saying that. It's very harmful, very irritating. It's just on social media every day. It's like, oh, I can't do this, I'm just a girl. I'm like, can you please stop saying that? It's just, so irritating that people are still perpetuating this stuff. So anyway, okay, what I don't like about this book. I wish it was structured more like this. I know they're completely different books, but this is like a story. It kind of has narrative, has a flow. When you open it up, every page is different. So we have 4 panels on the left and 6 panels on the right. So every page, you don't know how many panels you're gonna get. Sometimes you just have one big panel, if you will. I'm not a comic expert, but this book, every page is practically the same. It's a big chunk of text, images, big chunk of text. Every page is structured the same. Every topic has its own page. So the book is, not only is it chopped up, but it has huge chunks of words, image in the middle, chunk of words. And I didn't pick up a graphic novel to read big chunks of text. So I am skimming it. I just can't stand these big chunks of text. I wish the text was woven throughout the pictures, like this one. So yeah, I'm a little frustrated by the structure of this. And so the 2 authors created these 4 central characters that we're exploring, the concept of gender with, and they're really underutilized. I wish it was more focused on them and there was a story that flowed through this book instead of each page is its own topic and it's being chopped up. It could have used these characters more as a device to make the story flow together. And kind of in Wake, it could have had these 4 characters, the core 4, if you will, asking questions about gender as they went on this kind of discovery adventure, if you will. And it could have like used these characters more, but the authors kind of forgot about these characters, and they're kind of just, they're just kind of forgotten about. So yeah, I'm finding it very chopped up, and the structure is so repetitive with text, image, text. I just don't want to read these big chunks of text. But yeah, so I'm frustrated by the structure, but I am liking it. And then to connect gender to Wake, the book about slave revolt, it says on the page, the history of gender is interwoven with the history of colonialism. Slaves were seen as so inferior or inhuman that gendered norms did not apply to them. Slave and peasant women often did heavy labor and work in public, rather than being secluded in the home, for example. So, So super intersectional and connects with the other books I've read, which is great. So we love how all the books come together. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. But although I'm skimming it, I'm enjoying it overall. But just graphic novels, the point of a graphic novel is to not have big chunks of text. So anyway, all right, I will hopefully talk to you when I'm done. This says, The Handmaid's Tale has been critiqued for failing to recognize how closely it mirrors how Black women have actually been treated. And then you could say the same for Alchemized, because people say Alchemized is like The Handmaid's Tale. It's interesting. Time to think about this when Alchemized is one of the most popular books at the moment. So, very important discussion to have. But gender is so interesting. I love being a woman, but I'm often, because I'm tall, definitely have those times where I'm like, I'm not woman enough. So it's just so interesting to just think about gender as a construct and how I found myself fitting into it. This page is interesting, gender diversity throughout time. So it's talking about when men have taken women's roles in history. And I knew about kabuki and men dressing up as women in theater and stuff like that. But I didn't know in 18th and 19th century England, men met for sex and socializing in molly houses. Some of us took on female roles in appearance and forged a kind of family environment. So this is a kind of drag, if you will. So it's so interesting how this stuff is erased from history. Did you know about molly houses? I didn't. So anyway, that was one of the things I tabbed. And I think this looks like a witch that's getting burned, but as we learned from Wake, witches were hung. They were hanged. They weren't burned like this. So anyway, now we know. So finished gender. These authors, I think, wrote the next book called Sexuality, so I probably will have the same paragraphs too. It just seems like someone wrote the text first and then they added images after, which is not how graphic novels should be made. The panel should be written with the text together. So anyway, that's my critique, but this was good overall. So I'm gonna start the next graphic novel now. Starting the next and the last graphic novel. I guess I'm watching Supernatural because Netflix is taking it off Netflix. That's the only show I'm interested to watch on Netflix these days. Of course, it's the one they're taking off. Anyway, so I'm reading Sexuality, and it says it's only since the 1990s that homosexuality has been out of the World Health Organization classification of mental disorders. Like, that's crazy when humanity has had a long history of homosexuality. And I learned heterosexuality used to mean people with depraved interests in acts other than procreation. So heterosexual used to be a negative word. Very interesting. Okay, this book is I like it, but it's hard to write this book and hard to read this book. It's very convoluted. And I'm like, for example, sometimes when people are in all male environments, then they're attracted to men. And some women are in all female environments, they're attracted to females. And sexuality changes. And then some people are asexual, but they experience attraction under certain conditions such as emotional closeness. And I'm like, why is this book so convoluted? It's because every person on earth is different. And it's so hard to write a book about a topic in which every single person on earth is different. So it's just getting, the book is so convoluted. I don't know. I'm like, is there a good way? I'm like trying to think, is there a good way to structure a book on sexuality, or is this all we can do? Is come up with like a very convoluted book. But I'm liking it, but it's just so, you can't put every single human being's experiences into this book because it's just too much. And trying to cover all of history's views about sexuality and gender roles, and history has changed, is constantly changing what societal norms are. It's just so hard to write a book like this. So, I don't know. This is kind of why I haven't had an update for you. I'm liking it overall. This is just so hard to write a book on because everyone has had a different number of relationships, different duration of relationships, different levels of attraction and desire. It's like, it's different for every single human being on earth. So it's really hard to write a book like this. Interesting in this book, they compare going to confessional and telling your sins like the confessional in reality TV shows, which is a funny comparison. This page is mononormativity, and of course it's Hunger Games characters, Twilight characters, but what should be added to this is Harry, Hermione, and Ron. They should definitely be a throuple. But this book came out after the J.K. Rowling thing, so they probably wouldn't include that. But I just watched Harry Potter movies. They should definitely be a throuple. Like, people think, oh, she should be with Harry. They should, all three of them, be together, in my opinion. I love you. So do I. No problem. The end. Speaking of Hermione, she said, they say, you need to find the one. She says, I already have, thank you. I'm self-partnered. That was not a good impression, but... Hey y'all. Happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate. We are continuing with our last graphic novel. I'm, I think, a little more than halfway. Yeah, I don't have many thoughts to share. So we're talking about different types of relationships. Monogamous relationships, poly relationships, relationship anarchy, idealized monoamory, cheating, which isn't a relationship, don't ask, don't tell, or you don't really care to know if they're cheating or not. Open relationship, polygamy, polyfidelity, hierarchical polyamory, egalitarian polyamory, solo polyamory, and relationship anarchy. So these are the relationship types. Let me know about polygamy. Like, I heard some religious groups participate in polygamy, but let me know if people are still practicing this in the US. I'd be surprised. Like, I know there was a show, Sister Wives, that was on TLC, but I don't know if that's still going on, so let me know in the comments. So I will continue on. There's not much more to share, so I'll let you know when I get to the end. So, good morning, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and recap all the books that I've read. I didn't plan it, but it's been exactly a week from when I started this vlog, so claps for that. Totally unplanned. So I guess it took me 6 days. Anyway. So this has been a roller coaster ride. Let's just go book by book. So, The Black Panther Party by David F. Walker and Marcus Kwame Anderson. So I'm gonna give this 4 stars overall. Yes, it's weird to rate nonfiction, but I don't know. I just feel like the 4-star works. The beginning of this book, it gives you the context of the whole Black rights movement, and like sets up the context for the civil rights movement and everything. So it really shows you how the Black Panther Party fit into everything. And so yeah, it's a great introduction. I was surprised the book even had it, but it did. But the end of this book ended super abruptly. To tell you the ending, Huey Newton falls to drug addiction and he's killed by a drug dealer, and the book just abruptly ends like that. He's shot by a drug dealer, end of the book. So yeah, very abrupt ending. And while I was reading, it's just a shame that Huey Newton, like, he did have some good ideas, but it's a shame that he took over. So there were a lot of different leaders of the Black Panther Party, but it's a shame he took over at the very end of this timeline that they give us, because at that point, his addiction was too much and it led to the downfall of the party. And we have Elaine Brown, who was temporarily the leader of the Black Panther Party, and she really helped fix the reputation of the Black Panther Party when their reputation was really in the gutter. So she did amazing things. Yeah, it's a shame that Elaine Brown didn't just take over, but you know, the patriarchy always wins. And after Elaine Brown wasn't in charge anymore, then the party just went away. Yeah, here she is. Born in 1943, was appointed chairman of the Black Panther Party in 1974, making her the leader of the entire organization. So she did really amazing things for the Black Panther Party. So I knew that the Black Panthers were very controversial, but like, this book made me think they're worse than I thought and better. Like, there were just some bad actors, like, who took the Black Panther Party name and just did crime. So yeah, this definitely changes how I view the Black Panthers. It's just a shame, like, bad actors had to ruin the Black Panther Party, but they also did a lot of great things like community service, so I didn't know that. So anyway, I need to wrap this up, but this book was so crazy because we just have the Black Panther Party that started as a group for self-defense, and then you have the government getting involved and trying to rip the group apart from the inside by like inserting undercover agents, and just distrust runs rife through the Black Panther Party and just tears them apart. So anyway, this was very interesting. So if you want to learn a lot about the Black Panther Party in a short amount of time, this would be your way. And I like that they included all of the women in the Black Panther Party very well. And I just think they did a good job of including everybody. Not that I know that they left out people, but anyway, I could keep going on and on. But yeah, I really like this one. And it has like a narrative style. The only ones that had like a narrative style kind of flowing through it were these two. So really, that's why I like these the most. By that, I mean, you have character. I mean, this was a little choppy, but you have a characters that you like kind of follow in the storyline, and the timeline pretty much flows. Whereas Your Black Friend and Other Strangers was chopped up into chapters and they didn't like connect. So yeah, this is just a bunch of like kind of short stories, if you will. I feel like, I don't know, I understood 40% of this. Like, let me just turn to a random page. This is a lot of violence. Like, I don't know, I can't make any sense of this book. Your final trial is to defeat the punk lord, half punk and half landlord. So it's kind of like just where he gave kind of alien characters to real life characters, but it lost me. So this book was just so strange. But I understood when he was talking about, so the beginning of this book, he talks about going to protests. And that I understood. And just him experiencing racism in New Orleans, that I understood. But the kind of fantasy stuff that was in here, I did not understand at all. But overall, 3 stars. I kind of don't know what to say about this one. So anyway, the next one, definitely 5 stars. Wake, The Hidden History of Women-Led Slave Revolts. Now, I was probably the most scared to pick this up. I'm laughing because like I was not prepared for this either. But yeah, I was most scared to pick this up, but this ended up being 5 stars. This book is amazing. So we have Angela Davis has read. Oh my gosh, and Ben Passmore blurbed it on the back. And then yeah, Angela Davis was in the Black Panther Party. She blurred the back of this. So she says, Angela Davis says, not only a riveting tale of Black women's leadership of slave revolts, but an equally dramatic story of the engaged scholarship that enabled its discovery. So this narrative style follows a historian as we follow her trying to uncover the history of slave revolts. So this flowed together. Yeah, so this one flowed the best. The rest of them were choppy compared to this. But yeah, this book is so amazing. Like I said, if you're psychologically sensitive, like me, you can handle it. You'll be fine. So yeah, if you want to learn about slavery and have a more focus on women slaves, this is amazing. And I'm just going to encourage you to read more stories like this. Look to where there's a lack of history. That's where the important history is. So I'll leave it at that. Definitely got to pick this up. If you're slightly curious, it's a graphic novel. Like, there's no text on this page, which I liked. These books had way too much text. So yeah, it's not a huge time commitment. 5 stars is amazing. You gotta read this. If you don't want to buy this book, get the library card, go to the library, get it. If your library doesn't have it, ask them to buy this book because it's amazing. Okay, I do have some quotes from Wake, chapter 6. My parents survived slavery. It was not easy. It is a part of living in the wake of slavery. We must defend the dead It is a part of living in the wake of slavery. We must defend the dead and fight the violence inflicted on them by their erasure from the record. So she really stresses the importance of acknowledging the damage that erasing history does. The story we are given of being Black Americans is that we have no past and we have no say in the future. The future doesn't contain us. For 100 years of slavery and all that it has wrought, the historical archive that violently erased our past continues its violence against us. This also shapes what we believe is even possible for us in the future. When we go back and retrieve our past, our legacy of resistance through impossible odds, out our way out of no way, we redress the void of origin that would erase us. We empower and bring joy to our present. This is ancestry in progress, and it is our superpower. So it's just hard being a Black American and just not having a history. So that's why I tabbed this page. It really stuck out to me. Let's say the line, Black Americans have no past, have no say in the future, and the future doesn't contain us. So this is stuff that no one talks about. Missing history, a lack of a history. And it's so important as a Black American. So highly, highly recommend this book. Next we have Gender Sexuality. I guess we can talk about these together. So I liked Gender more. Oh, I gotta give it 3.5 because it's slightly less than, or 3.75. Slightly, I liked it less than the Black Panther Party. So yeah, they're super thought-provoking. I tabbed them. The sexuality one was so convoluted. Sexuality is such a convoluted social construct because we have, like, within ourselves, we have desire, and then we have the outside world determining everything, including our sexuality. So that is very hard to understand. But the issue is this book is saying we need to normalize all identities and sexualities, and we need to get rid of what we think of as normal sexualities. And it said that like 100 times. Like, it was so repetitive. So yeah, this kind of drove me crazy. Every single page is like, we need to move away from heteronormativity, mononormativity. It's just like, I get it. So, I don't know. Gender. But yeah, these are super intersectional, so you gotta appreciate that. But yeah, there's just way too much text in these books. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out, maybe I think I recommend Gender. Oh, yeah, I have a quote of what gender is. Okay. Judith Butler said, "Our gender is our expressions, behaviors, rather than those expressions and behaviors being the result of some underlying gender identity." So basically, we are, pressured. It is pressured to follow certain scripts and norms according to our gender. And that determines how we express gender, and that creates the social construct of gender. So anyway, yeah, this was good, too wordy. And this was good as well. These are both eye-opening. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Oof. I keep rambling. But I really liked the order that I read everything in gender, in sexuality. They're like, read our other book, Gender. I'm like, I already did. So yeah, I did not know those were by the same author. So I know for a lot of people, 75 Hard, reading nonfiction is on there. So here you go. Here's some recommendations. So anyway, thanks so much for watching me read graphic novels for a week, and I'll see you in the next video.